Okay, I see myself. Nice.
Okay, cool. The camcorder is recording?
Yes, I believe. I hope so.
Okay.
No,
Yeah, no
yeah.
worries. But okay, I'll do a little intro. Um, Hello everybody. My name is Samuel McIntosh. I'm the founder of Void Productions, and I'm really excited to be here today talking with the director of Call Me If You Miss Me, director, writer, and editor, actually. Um, Pablo Balboa. Hello, Pablo.
Hello. Hi.
Hello. How are you doing?
Good, good. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, man,
Having.
this is cool.
Yeah,
This
no,
is
it's insane. It's insane.
yeah, this is well, first of all, this is the first time we're ever doing like a Q&A thing, so I'm interested to see how it goes and like, what people think of it. But I think your films like warrant like talking about them a little bit, because I think what you do is so your films feel really like integrated and really, really well thought out and so like everything feels like it depends on each other in a way. Like your VFX and your score and like even like the coloring feels so like dependent on each other. So I think it's cool to talk about the process of like how you go through and how you like realize that whole thing. But um the first thing that I wanted to talk about that is actually kind of the way that I met you or the way I first saw your project was through Out of Time, your last short film that we released through Void. Um, but that project originally struck out to me or stood out to me because I just saw it on TikTok and it had such striking imagery. Like you were able to kind of sell it right away through the imagery of it and this like iconography like of this girl looking through this portal and like all this really really striking stuff. And Call Me If You Miss Me has the same type of really striking imagery. What comes to mind always is just the hand coming out of the briefcase is such a good, memorable moment. Yeah, and I always think about that a little bit in the back of my head, like, movies have these iconic moments and they have these really well designed, pieces of them that stick in people's minds, like horror movies with these like characters in masks or, these set pieces in movies. So when you go into a project, how much do you think about like the iconography of the project or like these frames that really stick out? Do those come first or are those kind of just go along with whatever story you're trying to tell?
I think those ones come first. I,
Hmm.
I I love visual storytelling, and I'm not really good using words to describe a feeling or an emotion. And so thinking about how that emotion or feeling is going to look visually is what pushes me to fill out the story. And it's like, okay,
Hmm.
so I want this character to feel this way, and I want this character to be pushed by this visual moment in the story. And then after that, it helps me write the reason of everything. And so, yeah, I would say those ones come first.
Hmm. And do you end up having like do those images spark the idea for the entire project or like how in specific with Call Me If You Miss Me, like what was the first thing that like started you thinking about this story?
I think what came first was me. I wanted to write a story about this guy who was being stalked by the feeling of wanting to call someone.
Hmm.
And so I initially wrote it as him encountering a phone all the time. And then after that, I needed to understand to make out the whole story.
Hmm.
But it was that initial feeling of wanting to call someone to reconnect that pushed me to make the whole story.
Hmm. And how did you decide? Because I know we talked a little bit like before you were getting started on the next thing that you had like, one or two scripts that you were kind of like in between that you were thinking about, and like I know that it's whenever you commit to something, it's daunting. Like you're in it and it's going to take a while. So like, how do you decide when you have a couple of things that you feel like you want to do? How do you decide which one that you want to do?
I think it's the one that I don't know, I think as a creative person and anybody who does creative work, you always have ideas and you always want to make all the ideas, but you need I would say I need to fall in love with it in the sense of I'm gonna be married with this project for more than 6 months
Hmm.
and in a year, and I need to love it enough so that it never gets old and it never gets boring to me, and I can always feel passionate about it. So I would say that if the idea doesn't stop growing in my head and it's just something that I can't get out, that means that I want to pursue it. If an idea changes and it evolves and it becomes something that it wasn't like in the beginning, then it means that I'm probably not married to that one. So that would be my opinion.
And yeah, in terms of like projects changing and evolving, like did this project, you said it kind of started out as like him encountering a phone over and over again, right? And then it became more so about him kind of seeing the ghost of this past, of his ex, essentially, right? And encountering her over and over and seeing duplicates of her everywhere. Um, did anything else major change, like through from writing to the actual production, and then even in editing? I know, like sometimes something doesn't work exactly the way you want it, and then you have to switch it, or something works way better and you're like, okay, let me lean into this thing. Did anything like that happen while making this?
Yeah, I think a lot of the writing changed. I i wanted to find a little balance because I wanted to focus on the situation of them of him having to reconnect with her, but I also didn't want it to feel like, I don't know, I'm talking about a relationship in the film.
Hmm.
I'm talking about how I wanted to focus mainly about what happens after you break up,
Hmm.
and how in my perspective, um, the person who you shared with a lot of things together for a long time is a stranger now, and I don't like that. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. So I
Hmm.
wanted to have that feeling of you wanting to reconnect with someone, but not because you are codependent or not because it's toxic, but because you care for the person. And
Hmm.
so writing it and finding a balance and making it not cheesy or not too sad or too corny was I think was the tricky part. So yeah, the story, I think at the end I liked how even in the ending, you don't really have an answer. And that's what I
Hmm.
wanted.
Yeah, they meet, but you don't know what the relationship's going to be like from there on out, type of thing.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's really interesting too, like that point is very cool to me, of like when a relationship ends, like you shared so much with somebody, and then kind of the common thing is to like, once it doesn't work out, it's like drop it, and that person's nobody to you again. And it's like you have to pretend sometimes that they're nobody, but it's like that's not really the truth always. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's very profound and very it is sad in a way, but it's also kind of an interesting thing to look at, because I think not a lot of people talk about that.
Yeah, I think it can be hopeful. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, it's sad. And even my film is a little bit melancholic and
Hmm.
nostalgic, but at the end, it's it's hopeful that you're gonna be able to reconnect in a new way.
Yeah, and what would you say, because when I think about the film, the word nostalgia does come to mind, and even like in the score feels very, it's this kind of like piano, and it feels timeless in a way, and it's very nostalgic. And so like, what is your relationship like with nostalgia, just in general, not even necessarily in relationships, but do you find yourself thinking about stories that deal with nostalgia often, or like in your day-to-day life, do you find yourself like thinking back a lot?
Yeah, I think I love nostalgia. I think
Hmm.
it's a beautiful feeling. It's also uh I think it's a lot of what pushes my work all the time. Um, it's just it's so pretty. It's also a little bit sad,
Hmm.
but I don't think it's a bad thing. I think we all live by nostalgia and we all miss things, and recognizing it, I believe it's a beautiful feeling that we should all experience.
Yes. And now I want to go back a little bit just to like where you started, because I think, at least for me, like doing these types of things begins with like the DVD extras on movies where it's like you could watch them when you're little and like see the special effects, or you could see the filmmaker talking about something, you know? And so like in your like the path that you took, how did you begin making movies, or how did you know that you wanted to start like storytelling in that way?
When when I was, I don't know, I think when I was 7 or 8, I started doing stop motions with my toys, and I found out that if you take a lot of photos and you put them together, they start to move. And so I
Hmm.
started doing, and then I quickly started watching a lot of visual effect films.
Hmm.
Uh, I was a super fan of Transformers, and then I realized the robots are not real, and that just made me want to do film. And yeah, I would say that it was when I was a kid, when I was 8 or 7. I just wanted do to make things in my mind come to a screen, and I like
Hmm.
that. And
Yeah.
so yeah, and after that I just kept watching films, and I just kept understanding how to express myself more visually. And I think everybody like it was obvious that I was gonna go for that. I just like it. I love it.
Yeah, and your films have a lot of like, I don't know, when I think of you and your films, like I think of a lot of like multimedia type of stuff. Like I feel like you're a very like your films feel very handmade and handcrafted. Like even at the end of this one, like there's like a stop motion crunch. Like it, you know, it turns into paper and crunches, and like that works with the story. That you know that visual that you made plays into the story in a way. And I think too, like your visual effects are a less notice, like a more subliminal way that you kind of make your films feel handmade, but it also feels seamless. You know, how much on this film did you um like how much rehearsal went into the VFX, because the VFX are like a doing a lot of the storytelling in this film, you know.
I always wanna I always try to do my rehearsals, and I always wanna try and see if I want to do is possible. And for this one, the briefcase was, I think, the interesting one.
Hmm.
I didn't know it was gonna work, but it ended up working in the rehearsal and the film, so I was happy about that. And then in Call Me If You Miss Me, there's a lot of cloning, and I knew I could do cloning. I've done it before a lot of times,
Hmm.
but the difference is it was the scale of how many clones I was gonna do in this film, how many times I wanted them to everybody be the same person, and it was just more time consuming. And
Hmm.
I knew I could do it, but I just knew that I was gonna spend a lot of time doing it by hand instead of doing a green screen or
Hmm.
uh, any like that. I wanted to feel like I told my DP uh, I wanted to shoot it like if we're not thinking about visual effects, and then like make the shot as pretty as possible, and I'll make it work in post production. Like I'll spend the
Hmm.
time doing. And yeah, and I think it paid off. I love the shots. I think they're not super noticeable even. Some people like they just when they watch it, it's like I think your mind just accepts that everybody's the same
Hmm.
person. And you're not surprised, like, oh, it's special effects. It's like, oh no, that just makes sense. And I like that.
Yeah, I think that's when visual effects are the strongest, like when they're kind of seamless. Like they should be used to heighten a film. Like you can create a heightened reality kind of, you know, like because in this you're seeing all these clones you know, of this actor walking around, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like hitting you over the head with VFX. It feels like part of the world, you know. And then same with the briefcase, and then same with that scene too, where the car, he's on one side of the car, and then the past versions of them are getting out of the other side of the car. Like that's, I feel like that's one of my other favorite parts that really sticks with me is like the that car scene. One thing too, this is a little off track, but I had one like very specific question. Around like 4:38 when he's in the car,
Yeah.
and after they've gotten out and he finds or he's thinking about it, there's a shot that goes into the plug of the car, and I think it's either a like a cigarette plug or
Yes,
just like a plug. I want to know about that shot. Like, what does that mean to you? Because it struck me as very specific, and I don't know. I have what I think it might be, but I wanted to know, you know, how that came about.
I think that one was if you see the beginning of the scene, the photos are supposed to be in that little area.
Hmm.
And when he comes in, the photos are not there anymore. So it's
Hmm.
just like it passed away.
Hmm.
Like it's no longer there. That was the whole meaning of it. I
Yeah.
think what made it a little bit jarring is that we shot it from two different angles, and it's hard to make the connection sometimes. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I see that. I kind of like it's just like that feeling of emptiness. I think you have several frames in this that feel like the thing is there and then the absence of the thing. Like I think you do a really good job of like doing that to make us feel what it feels like to miss somebody. You know what I mean?
Yes, I that's exciting. You nailed it. It's just I wanted it to feel empty.
Yeah. And a question I like to ask people too is like if this film, first of all, like what films did you watch in preparation or like what stuff did you watch that started to inspire this? And then if you could put this on like a double bill with something like you watch Call Me If You Miss Me, and then what film would you put after it?
Oh my, I the only one is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I
Hmm.
think it's the main inspiration for this project, and if you could watch my film and then watch that film together, I think you would understand what I was focusing a lot.
Hmm.
That's mainly it. I'm trying to think which other one. Uh, no, I think it's just that one. I think that I love romantic films, but I also hate them. I think we do them really cheesy and really nice and really playful, and we forget that relationships are messy, and I think
Hmm.
that's them really work, and that's what makes them really pretty.
Hmm.
I there's a few films that actually show that, and I like that. I like watching that.
Hmm. Yeah. And is there anything right now like that you're watching or that you've seen recently that you really enjoy?
Yeah,
Films or TV or art in general, like, stuff that you like.
I watched a film called Rye Lane,
Hmm.
and I absolutely loved it. It was I think it's exactly what I was craving for, and I loved it. And I would say probably Severance. Severance is
Amazing.
yeah, and I love offices, and I love offices like environment, and so that one's just perfect for me.
Very Pablo show for sure. That was another question I had. What both Time and Call Me If You Miss Me deal with these like mundane office scenarios to start at least, what is it about offices that like kind of draws you to that profession? Like did you ever have an office job you had to do?
No, my dad has,
Hmm.
but I haven't. I think I don't know. I think I found something pretty in them. They're not. I don't think offices mean depression or anything like that. But
Hmm.
I just think the visual look of an office is just so square, and it's so there's so much to play with because we associate it with such a formal space and such a working space that adding anything surreal or anything extraordinary in an office, it just makes it really fun for me
Hmm.
because you have a really ordinary place, like ordinary to the lowest, which is an office where everybody's focusing on their work and everybody's in their little cubicle or their little office space. And having something extraordinary happen there makes it stand out more. and I like that a lot. So that's probably what I really like about it.
Hmm. Yes. Well, I think we can kind of wrap up there. Obviously, Call Me If You Miss Me. By the time we put this out, will be out, so people can go watch it. Hopefully, they watch it and then come watch this, but maybe backwards. We don't know. But otherwise, I'll turn the the mic to you. Is there where can people find you, or like what do you want to put out there for people to go check out, other than the film, maybe?
I think if you haven't seen my film, I think you should. I think you would enjoy it. Again, I a lot of people that I love and that I care so much about helped me do this project, and they stayed with me and they made it come to life. So if you could go and support artists, that would be incredible. Again, I'm just starting. I'm 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 still super young, and having my film to be recognized by voice productions, by you, Samuel, by festivals, by so many people, and it hasn't come out yet. It's just amazing, and I would love for people to share that a little bit more. I have a pretty hopeful message, and I wish if you watch it and you feel something, then I did my job properly, and that's what I want. And yeah, you can see it on Vimeo, and you can check my stuff on Instagram, and I answer messages, and that's it. I don't know what else to say.
I think that's perfect, man. Thank you for taking some time to do this. I'm really, really good film, and I'm so happy to like help put it out again.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah,
No, thank you for having me here. It's awesome.
of course, man. First Q&A done. Cool.
Good.